A new ruling in the case of a father who is now detained by federal agents while his daughter fights cancer. A judge ruling today he must be given a prompt bond hearing. Ruben Torres Maldonado has been in custody since last Saturday, and DHS says he's been living in the U.S. illegally for years. His 16-year-old daughter is undergoing cancer treatment. The federal judge ruled that Maldonado's detention is unlawful and he must have a bond hearing on or before Halloween. We will continue to follow developments on this immigration crackdown in Chicago.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, folks, here we go again. We have another Maryland man story coming down the pipeline for you guys with another heartstring pulling, reality denying, law ignoring story, dude. It's mind boggling. The level of cognitive dissonance coming from liberals, coming from, as a matter of fact, justices on the federal circuit. This is just absurdity incarnate. And I say that because these judges know the law. They know what's going on. They know exactly what they're doing here, and they know that they are lying outright, just right through their teeth. They're smiling while they're doing it, and they're trying to make you think that you're on the wrong side of history if you think that these criminal, illegal aliens that are in the country deserve to be here, folks. Check this out, y'all. Here we go. It's already narrative building, even with the headline. Judge rules immigration detention of Chicago man with daughter battling cancer is illegal. Now, right off the top, they had to add in, like, it's totally irrelevant that this guy's daughter is battling cancer. But they have to add that in for dramatic effect, if you will, to once again latch onto those heartstrings and yank just as hard and as fast as they can. Once again, folks, don't let the emotional manipulation fool you, folks. Everybody has problems, right? We can go to just about anybody in the country and feel. Oh, we can feel their plight. We can feel their hardships and relate to just about anybody. Anybody could have some sob story of, oh, where they were slighted or you know, whatever happens, right? It's just insane how they do this and how they wrap all this stuff up with a nice little bow and try to serve it to you. But once again, folks, I am here to knock down these narratives because, once again, folks, everybody has problems. Not just criminal aliens, folks. The detention by immigration authorities of a Chicago man whose 16-year-old daughter is undergoing treatment for advanced cancer is illegal, and he must be given a bond hearing by October 31st, a federal judge has ruled. Now, there are several logical inconsistencies with this. Okay, first off, you might think, well, if his detention is illegal, hang on just a second. Don't you think they should be advocating for his release? Or don't you think that a judge in a position of power to order these people to release this man should order these people to release this man and not give him a bond hearing? Because a bond hearing is releasing him on his own recognizance. That means he must still come back to face the news, folks, to face the firing squad, if you will. So, you know, right off the top, that kind of doesn't make any sense if you ask me. Why are they just going for a bond hearing, right? So once again, the logical inconsistencies, sorry, I'm having a way with words today. They're starting to pile up. You know, those pesky facts, you know, those facts just always seem to get in the way, don't they? Attorneys for Ruben Torres Maldonado, 40, who was detained October 18th, have petitioned for his release as his deportation case goes through the system. While U.S. District Judge Jeremy Daniel said in an order Friday that Torres' detention is illegal and violates his due process rights, he also said he could not order his immediate release. And why is that? You're a judge. You have the authority to do so. How come you can't? Oh, because that actually violates the law to just order this man released because you know that he's in the country illegally, as a matter of fact. This dude didn't commit any crime. No, but he's in the country illegally, right? So in other words, that initial crime is enough to get him deported from the country. These people don't deserve to be here. And once again, you know, saying it violates his due process rights. Well, you know what? I love this because this is where the cognitive dissonance comes into play, because this judge knows that the actual due process rights for an illegal alien, a criminal alien in this country, is simply to be scooped up by Immigration and Customs Enforcement and deported, just outright. That is his process in which he is due. Right now, saying due process is conflating several things right here, because, you know, we usually reserve that term for people that commit a crime. Now, this dude clearly hasn't committed a crime in this instance as to when he got arrested, right? As to when he got detained by ICE. There was no crime committed. He was just in the country illegally. Therefore, you know, he's not supposed to be here. So they're conflating several things right here. Most people, when they hear due process rights, that immediately makes you think, well, they need to go to court, they need to have a hearing, they need to plead guilty or not guilty, go to trial, blah, 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 blah. That's not what it is, folks. Due process rights, as a matter of fact, is just, once again, it's the process that you are due as a person. It is the rights that you get, and they are different for different situations. Once again, you know, you go to trial, like you're suing somebody for defamation, right? There's a different set of due process rights that you get, right? If you commit a crime, that's a whole nother set of due process rights that you get. If you enter the country illegally, it is very simple. Like I said a minute ago, the due process rights that you get picked up by ICE and you get deported. That's pretty much it. If you've been in the country for longer than 2 years, then your due process rights is you go to immigration court and you make your case as to why you should stay in the country. And generally speaking, there isn't a case to make. Now, this guy would have a case to make, considering the fact that his daughter is battling cancer. They can't just deport this guy. You know, I mean, unless he doesn't fight it in immigration court, but this judge knows this process. This is why this guy, he's being intellectually dishonest and just has this overwhelming amount of cognitive dissonance with this case, with these people, with this ideology of the left that they think that no human is illegal. Well, look, I'm sorry. Like, that might kind of be a misnomer in terms, but what it means essentially is they are in the country illegally. They are not supposed to be here. We have rules by which we live by. Society must have guardrails, for crying out loud. Otherwise, it would be like olden times. You could just do whatever you wanted to and not have to face the consequences for what you do, folks. But we have a society these days, and we have laws for a reason. And these laws must be adhered to. But these judges, they think, oh, who cares about that, right? Like, who cares? Nobody cares about laws. We're just going to selectively enforce however we feel. Well, you know, if that was the case, there would be no such thing as blind justice, because that's what our criminal justice system is supposed to be all about. Blind justice. We're not supposed to look at facts like this guy's daughter is battling cancer or whatever. That is completely irrelevant to what is going on here. Right? It might be a little bit cold-hearted, but I don't really think it is, because once again, it's irrelevant. But it will factor in an immigration case, because that is something totally different. And once again, you get a whole different set of due process rights, folks. It's wild to see this, to see these people acting in this way on the federal level, folks. These judges. It's completely insane. But let's finish this thing out, because this is kind of a short story. So, while sympathetic to the plight the petitioner's daughter faces due to her health concerns, the court must act within the constraints of the relevant statutes, rules, and precedents, the judge wrote Friday. Yeah, well, why are you not doing that? Torres' attorney took the ruling as a win for now. We're pleased that the judge ruled in our favor in determining that ICE is illegally detaining Ruben. We will now turn the fight to immigration court so we can secure Ruben's release on bond while he applies for permanent resident status, his attorney Kalman Resnick said in a statement Friday night. Torres, a painter and home renovator, was detained at a suburban Home Depot store. His daughter, Ophelia Torres, was diagnosed in December with a rare and aggressive form of soft tissue cancer called metastatic alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma, and has been undergoing chemotherapy and radiation treatment. Torres entered the U.S. in 2003, according to his lawyer. He and his partner, Sandibel Hidalgo, also have a 4-year-old son. The children are both U.S. citizens, according to the court records. My dad, like many other fathers, is a hardworking person who wakes up early in the morning and goes to work without complaining, thinking about his family, Ophelia said in a video posted on a GoFundMe page set up for her family. I find it so unfair that hardworking immigrant families are being targeted just because they were not born here. The Department of Homeland Security alleges that Torres has been living illegally in the U.S. for years and has a history of driving offenses, including driving without a valid license, without insurance, and speeding. So this guy's not a hardened criminal. But yes, you cannot enter the country illegally and expect to just live out the rest of your days willy-nilly. I'm sorry, folks. Once again, we have rules, we have guardrails that we must abide by. Once again, we cannot selectively enforce this law or that law or this law, blah, 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 whatever it may be. I'm sorry, that's just not how the world works. You do this in any other country, you're going to be booted out with extreme quickness. You're just going to get flung out of the country so fast it'll make your head swim, literally. Make your freaking head swim. I don't understand these people's thought process in which they think that this is the only country that you can just walk into and just live out the rest of your days without any consequences whatsoever, folks. And I like the fact that Trump is doing what he is doing. Sure, does it look bad to some people? Some people may get offended by this and say, well, no person is illegal, like I was saying earlier. But that doesn't matter, folks, because you can't just violate a country's laws, violate their sovereignty, for crying out loud, and think you can get away with it. This doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense. And these judges know this. This guy has a pretty good case to stay here in the country because he has children who are dependent on him that are U.S. citizens, for goodness sakes. They have a pretty good case to stay. And it's most likely that when it goes to immigration court, they will find that, yes, this guy will get temporary protected status and he will be allowed to stay here. But he must go through that process, folks. That is the process that he is due. And that is the process that he is being given. So I'm sick and tired of all these people that are yelling and screaming, oh, they're violating due process rights. No, this is the process. If you were in the country for less than 2 years, expedited removal. That is the process that you are due. There are no courts, none of that. If you are caught like within 2 years, or as a matter of fact, at all, violating laws up to felonies, as a matter of fact, and beyond, then the process that you are due is dependent upon the agency at the time. You can either be expeditedly removed, or they can put you through the criminal justice system. It is up to the administration to make that determination. If they want you to be held to account for your crimes in this country, then you will. If not, they will boot you out of this country. That is it, folks. There is none of this, oh, he needs to go to immigration court, he's got to have a hearing and all this. No, that doesn't have to take place at all. At all, folks. And I'm tired of people conflating these things. There's many people out there, conservatives, as a matter of fact, that are saying these people, they don't deserve due process rights. No, everybody deserves due process rights. But once again, like I always say, there is a difference. There's different sets of due process rights for everything, folks. For all kinds of nonsense. And it's just figuring out what set of circumstances that led to this guy getting caught up and put into those processes, if you will, to figure out which rights he needs, right? It's fascinating. These people, they're conflating all kinds of different nonsense. And it's all a narrative building scheme to, once again, make Donald Trump and ICE look evil over here. And, liberals and Democrats, they're the good guys because they're the ones standing up for the due process rights of non-citizens, for goodness sakes. Like, it's all just a game, folks. And once again, it's emotional manipulation to try to pull you over to their side. Pull you over to the dark side, which is on the wrong side of history at this point, because once again, anything that is opposite, that's antithetical to law and order, is not the right side of history, folks. I'm sorry, it cannot be. It's definitionally wrong, right? I mean, think about it like that. So once again, you can have an emotional reaction to these things, and you can feel pity upon these people. Once again, but at the same time, it's their own choices that brought them to where they're at, right? They decided to violate our sovereignty and enter the country illegally. That's their choice. Then, amazingly, they decided to have children in this country, and for one sole purpose, folks. One sole purpose. Most of these people do it just to anchor themselves to this country, because they know that when they get to immigration court, an immigration judge will be like, well, you have children dependent upon you. Well, you know, we can't separate the family, blah, 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 blah. Some judges will decide, well, look, you can take your family with you back to your your country of origin. Bye. Peace. And other judges will say, no, we'll give you temporary protected status and you can stay within the country. But once again, you know, that gives them access to become a citizen, to get their legal status in this country. I don't know why these people don't do that. It's not that hard, right? Sure, it might take some time, but it's not that hard. It really isn't, folks. And there's a lot of NGOs out there that are willing to help you pay for it. So there's no excuses. There's absolutely no excuses for any of these people. None of them. And this whole narrative of, oh, they're violating his due process rights is absurd. Completely absurd. But I think I've rambled on for long enough. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section, because once again, folks, you know, sometimes, you know, I get down these lines of thought and, you know, maybe take some emotion away from this. Blind justice, if you will, can be cold, but, you know, it is what it is. So y'all let me know if I'm off the rails on this, or, you know, if this is right on the money. But you guys remember to do me that. I'm having really tough time with words today. So y'all do me that favor and smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and everywhere that you can. And don't forget to click that join button, sign up, and become a member. That would be the biggest and best way you could help this channel expand and grow. But, you know, I also want you guys to remember one thing, that God has a plan for everybody, and we must praise God in all things that we do. We must, folks. We got to put God first. But he does love each and every one of you out there. So y'all try to have a good day and stay legitical. Peace.